write in the newspaper, so and so was having an affair with so and so. And they go and get away with it. Nobody asks for proof. But in Islam, you have to produce proof. If I take a stand and say so and so, I saw her, having an affair with a man, the Quran tells us that, and those who launches a charge against a chastity woman, a decent woman, a woman of moral conduct, and produce no witness to support the allegation, flog them with 80 stripes and reject the evidence even after for such men are wicked transgressors. 4 evidence. We go to the book of witness in Islam, you know what these 4 evidences are. And it's impossible for you to have 4 witnesses. What Islam is trying to do is protect the rights of people. See? To the extent that 4 people have to witness the same thing. Unless you have the 4 witnesses, your allegations, even if it is true, will not be accepted in Sharia court. To be rejected from you. And you will be given lashes for falsifying information about people. Because this is a reputation of an individual. You're not supposed to go around in the society and spread gossip and degrade their position in the society. And who is more vulnerable to these kind of acts are women. And we see this in all these magazines who are claiming to be cosmopolitan and this and that. Whole story. I've seen many Chinese magazines, they take a picture of a movie star or a pop singer with a guy and they make it a big issue. As if the one who's reading is decent enough. So this again is not protection. Till today we don't have any system in our current global system where women are protected from being falsely accused of sexual misconduct. And then financial dealing and ownership. Women are equally qualified and allowed to engage in financial dealings, and they have every right to inherit from their parents whatever they leave. There is a portion, it's a huge study. There's a book of inheritance. You have the portions for men and women. The women are children. What is the proportion? If she's single, what is the proportion? And from the face of it, it looks like women is getting very little. But if you calculate it, actually she ends up getting more. And I'll tell you why. And then education and care. Islam, the Prophet Muhammad said, seeking knowledge is compulsory for every believer. Every believer to seek knowledge is compulsory. No ifs and buts. If you have to go to university, in another narration, Prophet Muhammad said, even if you have to travel to the extent of China to seek knowledge, go. And in another narration, Prophet said, the keys to paradise is to seek knowledge. So the keys for us to even to enter paradise is to seek knowledge. And knowledge in Islam is given a very high priority. That's why the first person to come up with the concept of university was Fatima. That great woman who came many years after Fatima's of the prophets, not the Fatima of the prophets. Why a daughter, but of someone else. The one who actually built the first world university was a woman. And Prophet's wife Aisha, God be pleased with them both, she was a scholar. On us, she had 88 students learning from her, 88 scholars were learning under her. And she alone has narrated to us 2,260 hadith in her own account. We have taken the narrations of the Prophet from her. She's got 2,200 plus narrations from the Prophet. You see where, and this is all happening in the 8th and the 9th century. So I'm again taking you back in time. I need to transport you back in time, not today. And then Prophet Muhammad once said, whosoever takes care of 2 girls until they reach the age of, in the age of puberty, and he and I, on the day of judgment, will be like this. He illustrated to the people, he said, if anybody who has 2 girls, and he looks after them, fairly, and he looks after them, gets them married, give them what is their due respect and rights, when he dies and when he's raised again, in the day of judgment, in the court of God, I and him will be like this, that close. where women, children, babies were being buried alive, to those people, Prophet is saying, look, you do this, you'll be raised. You'll be honored and you will be given great status in the sight of God. And the other narration, the Prophet said, whosoever has a female child with him under his guardianship from slavery, and trains her in the best behavior and teaches her well, and then frees her, marries her, will have double the reward. You see, if you look after the boy child, it's different from looking after the female child. If you look after the female child, you raise her up, give her good education, get her married, you get double the reward than what you get with the boy child. See, this is another elevation of women in a Muslim society. And then, moreover, the Prophet concentrated throughout the teachings, giving more care and attention to female in general. Female must be treated with kindness, respect, honor, dignity, integrity, and the needs must always be looked after. Prophet Muhammad said, whosoever has 3 daughters, or 3 sisters, or 2 daughters, or 2 sisters, and is very kind and nice to them, and fears God in their treatment, will enter paradise as a result of his good behavior with his 2 daughters, or 2 sisters. So everything in Islam is associated with paradise. Again, that is the ultimate. In the Islamic belief, the only purpose we go through all the struggle is to attain the house forever. The blessings that we're going to enjoy forever. Thousands, millions of years we're going to be there. So every Muslim is actually struggling to reach that stage. So all the temptation he goes through in life is trying to control it. You see, everybody's a flesh and blood. We have our temptation, so we have to put it to control. And then, rights to receive shares and wealth, the last one. Men and women have a set and determined rights to receive their fair share of wealth, just as they have obligation to give obligatory charity according to a set calculation. As the Quran says, from what is left by parents and those nearest related, there is a share for men and share for women, whether the property be small or large, as determined share. Whether it's a small share or a big share, women and men have a share. Brothers or sisters or husband or wife or whoever it is. And then, there's a person very well known. He's a thinker and a philosopher, and he's written a book called Islam and the Arab Civilization, Sir Hamilton. I think he's a German. He's a great thinker of his time. He says the rules, regulations, and verdicts concerning women in Islam are very clear. Frank and open. He says frank and open. That's why people who don't understand Sharia, you will see them often attacking the Quran. Saying 1 male witness is equal to 2 women witnesses. You see, they attack because they don't go through the entire scenario of witnesses. And then it's frank and open. Islam capitalizes on the complete care that should be given to protection of women against anything that may harm a person personally or causes bad reputation or character. This is very seriously looked into in Islam. I told you, if I allege or accuse anybody, in the Islamic court I don't produce proof, I will be given 80 lashes for life. So if you treat one person with this punishment, do you think anybody will ever lie about anybody without having it? You'll have to think twice. But today we don't have this system, so people are writing right and left, because I remember before the death of Diana, the kind of hardship she was going through. For a person of her caliber, her status, she's a well-known figure. She's not like us, we are no man. But she's in the media, and the way they write, if you read it, it's too ugly. This is not the way you treat a person. Imagine what she must have gone through. So sometimes I feel that death was merciful. It's more merciful for her than for her to live, than what she went through. So this is the system, and we call this as women's rights. And then polygamy, another very interesting subject. You know why this is interesting personally to me? Because I remember when I was young, when I go to China or I have supplies in Hong Kong, I shake hands with them, I say, my name is Jamal M. Ashraff. As soon as they hear the word Muhammad, they look at me, they say, you're a Muslim. I say, yes, I'm a Muslim. How many wives have you got? And I was only 21 at that time. This This is the first question. As if polygamy is only in Islam. Let us put it to test. Let us see the history and the current scenario and see whether polygamy is only something confined to Islam or isolated to Islam, or it is general and it was general. Now we go to Hinduism. In Hinduism, polygamy was practiced in major section of Hindu society. In ancient time, the Ramayana, father of Ram, King Dasarath, has 3 wives, and Ram has pledged himself just 1 wife. So he pledged himself. The Hindu god Lord Krishna, the 9th incarnation of God. You know what is incarnation, right? God becoming human form. He takes a human form, lives amongst us, he knows what pains us, what we go through, and he writes a book. Do's and the don'ts. That's called incarnation. That is the basic foundation that whole Hinduism is based on. And then it says, Vishnu had 16,108 wives, and his kingdom in Dwarka, in the post-Vedic, Veda is the most authentic book in Hinduism. Like we have the Muslims have the Quran, the Christians have the Bible, the Jews have Torah, the Hindus have this to be which is holding the highest position in the Hindu world. In the Vedic period, polygamy declined in Hinduism and is now considered immoral. Can you imagine, you take a wife, the first wife, and you feel biologically you have to get 1 more, legally, you tell the world, this is my second wife, and they call this immoral. And then although the Veda and the Hindu religion itself do not outlaw polygamy, the terms under the Hindu Marriage Act, which was put together in 1952 or 1954 in India, which actually forbids Hindu, which will include Jains, Buddhist and Sikh. Forbids them from having more than 1 wife. But previous to that, previous to legally bringing this law in 1952 or 1954, it was legal. They could have as many wives as they want. You see, polygamy was not denounced by all the major religions of the world. And Islam actually put the upper limit. It says up to 4. That's it. It was not something that didn't exist before Islam, and Islam brought this system. No. It was there even before the advent of Muhammad. Before Muhammad became a prophet, people were practicing polygamy. What Islam did, it put an upper limit. Look, maximum 4. That's it. No more. As the Quran says in Surah Nisa, I believe, it says, marry women of your choice in 2s and 3s and 4s, but if you can't do justice between them, marry only one. The condition of polygamy in Islam is justice. If you can't do that, don't even think about it. And then, in the notes I have all the sources. So where I got this information in my study, you have it. In Buddhism, so here, this is something I discovered during my study. In Buddhism, marriage is not a sacrament. It's not something that is obligated on the monks. They don't marry. They isolate, just like the priest or the father in the church. They isolate themselves or divorce themselves from this relationship called marriage. It is purely a secular affair. It's a general stuff. If you're not a monk, fine, you get married. The monks do not participate in it, though in some sects, priests and monks do marry. For example, in Japan, they do get married. Hence, it receives no religious sanction. Forms of marriage consecutively varies from country to country. So in Buddhism, it varies from country to country. Not every monk is practicing celibacy. Maybe he's married, like in Japan. And polyandry, what's polyandry? Polygamy is when a man has more than 1 spouse. And the vice versa. This is another hot question I get a lot of the sisters asking me. If women can have 4, why can't I have 4 husbands? So they talk about equality. This is not equality. It's difficult to find. As well as common traditionally was polygyny, and having several wives or husband was never regarded as having sex with inappropriate partners. In Buddhism, it was not considered that way, if you have more than one spouse. Whether women has or man has. And then Tibet is home to the largest and the most flourishing polyandrous community in the world today. Other forms of marriage are also present, like group marriage, which is polygamy, and monogamous marriages. People who just get married to one woman and they settle. So this is something which was new in Tibet, and it's a very long detail which is available in the Encyclopedia of Britannica. I got this information from. So I had to concise it. It was a very long article. A lot of stuff they put in there, but I had to take the essence out. So if you need, I can give you those references. You can go back to those volumes and books. And then, in Judaism, polygamy, another major religion. Polygamy existed amongst the Israelis before the time of Moses. Before even Moses came about, people were practicing polygamy. Who continued to the institution without imposing any limit on the number of marriages which a Hebrew husband might contract. While there is no evidence of polyandrous state in primitive Jewish society, polygamy seems to have been a well-established institution dating from the most ancient time and extending to comparatively modern days. And in modern Israel, where a wife cannot bear children, or is mentally ill, the rabbi gives the husband the right to marry a second wife, a woman, without divorcing his first wife. Polygamy was prohibited in Judaism by the rabbis, not by God Almighty. Same thing with Christianity. You see, with Christianity, Jesus was preaching and healing people for 33 years before he was put on the cross. And during his time, people were also practicing polygamy. He never said one word against this practice in his lifetime. So it was later, the church, what they did, they banned. They put a ban, but they tolerated prostitution and concubinage. That means a man can have his mistress. And we all very well know a mistress does not have the same rights as a wife. A wife inherits what the husband leaves behind. And the child has every right to use the father name as a surname. In Islamic Sharia, it is a must that you identify your father. The naming system in Islam is very, very important because the Prophet said, name your children with beautiful names because God will call upon them on the day of judgment with those beautiful names. So even to give names to your children, give them the most beautiful names. Don't give ugly names. And the naming system, the West learned from the Muslims. You see, the Muslims, if you go back and if you see, they put bin, son of, daughter of. Like for myself, my given name is Muhammad Ashraff. I'm the son of Jamal. So I put my surname as Jamal. My given name in Islam is Muhammad Ashraff. You see, the West also adapted this style. That's why you have the name called Johnson, Peterson, Davidson. What does this mean? Why son? Because they had a naming system which they copied from the Muslims. David's son, John. You see, as time evolved, people wanted to cut short everything. We always look for shortcuts. So what they did, they put Peter's son, John's son, David's son. The actual background is they're indicating this individual is the son of so and so. So in the Islamic Sharia, if you're a Muslim, you're living in a Muslim society, your father's identity is very, very important. You have to identify who your father is. And psychiatrists tell us, if a child goes to school and if he doesn't know the name of the father, if a child goes to school, and amongst the school students, if every child gives the father name, my father is so and so, his name is so and so, his profession is so and so, and if there is a child who the mother herself doesn't know who the father is, he goes through something called psychological reaction, which is what creates what you call the psychos on the street. You see these mentally disturbed boys? They like to torture little small living things from rat to cat, and then eventually they hunt on human beings. Because of that pain they go through, people laughing at them. You know your father's name? Ha ha ha. What was your mother doing? What's, you know? The way they have this sarcastic joke, it hurts the boy. And he develops that hate for the community. So this is why Islam says, your father's name is a must. This is how it is. So that's why Islam permits polygamy. This is one of the reasons why. Don't look for some wrong means. See, look for means that is lawful. God has given you the permission. Everything that God created in this universe is for mankind. It's for you to enjoy. Who else is going to enjoy? It's for us. And don't worry about it declining. All these numbers they give you is all stupid. The amount of fish in the sea was the same when Adam was created. And today, with billions of people already, the sea still provides. The earth still provides. And then, in the United States, polygamy is illegal by law. But it exists unofficially with estimated 30,000 to 80,000 people living in a polygamist in the West. Typically, these families are Mormon fundamentalists. This is the term they use, not me. Or Christian groups that maintain polygamy is a time-honored and scriptural practice. So people, this is natural. Man by nature is a polygamist, whether you like it or you don't like it. We are. Men here, you can't deny the fact. Even if a guy is married to the most beautiful woman, he will gaze at other women. That's his nature. You can't do anything about it. Even if my wife is the most beautiful woman that any man can ask for, I as a man will like to look at other people. That's my nature. So what Quran says, when things happen like that, lower your gaze, lower yourself, keep moving. Don't bother. And then coming to polygamy in Hong Kong. Until 1971, October, polygamy was practiced in Hong Kong. It was a norm. Surprise, because this surprised me too. Until 1971, anyone living in Hong Kong can have more than one wife. And there was no limit. You can have 10, 20, up to you. It depends on your capability, your wealth. If you think you can generate 50 children and you can feed them and give them beautiful houses, go ahead. And there is a family in Nepal. And I find very amazing. That man's got 50 wives and he's got 500 children. And he's very healthy. And the Lord says he's still looking for one more. God has blessed him. That's his blessings. He was proving to us that, he's a man. You guys get married to one woman and you scream and you cry. And he's got 50 wives and he got 500 children. I have the clips with me at home. And he's given every one of them a mention to live. So he's fulfilling the term of being just. They're not doing justice. Some Hong Kong businessmen have concubines. This is very common. I remember in the 90s I was going through so many newspapers. This is the problem. Every Hong Kong man who has wives here officially has mistresses in China. Is that true or not? Not has become a norm. And do you know in Hong Kong there is one individual who's got 4 wives and he's not a Muslim? You know him? He's got 4 wives. Legally he's got it. And the government can do nothing.
Stanley Ho?
Yes. Stanley Ho.
No, even before the founder of Cathay Pacific, he has got
Well, this guy is the hot
Chinese. He has many wives.
You see, if he was a Muslim, the media would be taking pictures and saying, look, this is abusive to women. What is abusive? The guy feels he wants it. If government can legalize prostitution, if they can legalize pornography, if they can legalize all this that is creating a big mess in the society today, why can't you legalize something when I say, look, I have wealth, I can afford 3, and I have 2 more children. Who the hell is the government to tell me I can't? If the government can sanction women walking naked on the streets or with bikinis in the beach, what's wrong with this? I'm taking this woman legally as a wife. And if I die, my children will carry my name. And part of my wealth goes to her. And they make this immoral. This is how they frame. These words they frame in the media, this is what they do. So basically, they're trying to make pornography live by doing this. They're making all this, evil in the society. Evil in the society is survived by really going against your nature. You can go against nature, but you can't hide the truth. And duties, rights and duties of the husband in Islam, and amongst his sign, God Almighty says, amongst his sign is that He has created you in pair. That He created you in mates from amongst yourself, that He may dwell in tranquility with them, and He put in love and mercy between your hearts. Verily there is a sign for those who reflect. He says, God Almighty, that has made us, created us in pair. And this is a must. See, for a person to live a life that is morally adequate for him, he has to get married after a certain period. It is natural. As much as you look for food and water and sleep, you have to look for your spouse. So what Quran says, God has created you in pair that you may live in tranquility with them and show mercy with each other. And there is sign for those who reflect, for those who ponder over these things. And Prophet Muhammad, he said, those who are the best believers are those who have the best manners and the most kind to their families. And the other one says, the best of you is the best, the best of you is the one who is best with his family. And I am best with my family. You see, this is another narration. Remember again, you have to go to the 7th century. So these words were uttered by the Prophet in the 7th century, not today. So these are very powerful revolution at that time. It was not easy. You see, in the time of Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, his companion, Umar, may God be pleased with him, he heard his wife spoke back to him. She spoke back to him. And he couldn't believe. He said, you speak back to me? I'm the man in the house. And she told him, even the Prophet's wives speak against the Prophet. If he's wrong, they tell him off. And he was shocked. What? Prophet's wife talked back to the Prophet? How can it be? So he went back to Hafsa. His daughter was married to Prophet Muhammad. So he asked, Hafsa, do you talk back to the Prophet? She said, yes, all the prophets do. Or all the wives do. If he says anything that we don't like, we tell him off. We tell him, no, we can't agree with this. We don't just subdue, we don't just submit and walk away. Because that was the difference between the women of Mecca and Medina. People of Mecca, the women in Mecca were very submissive. They didn't say anything against the man in the house. But in Medina, which is only 250 miles away, which is 7-day journey if you're on a camel at that time, 5 days you're on a horseback, the women in Medina were very bold. They spoke back. Wrong, you're wrong, that's it. They can't tolerate it. So the companion was shocked. So you look at the Prophet's life, he was open. You disagree? Fine. He was only concerned. If this is God's law, you follow. Don't argue with me. But if it's my personal choice and you don't agree, fine. That's up to you. So he gave women their rights. A rights to express yourself. Freedom of expression. In a time where women can't even whisper. And then coming to beauty, I just took this picture because it's a very nice picture. I see this senior person. There are people like that who've been married for 50, 60 years. They're very nice. When I see this elderly person, sometimes they hold hands. I saw one white lady holding her husband. I was like, wow, must have been married for 45 years. Look at it. Look at today's world. Small argument, divorce. Can't stand the person. General rights to be treated with honor, kindness, and patience. This is one of the duties of husband and wife. To enjoy intimate relationship with each other. Islam gives very much importance to the intimacy. Islam is the only faith on the face of this earth which talks about intimacy in the most beautiful manner. Not vulgar, not ugly like we see in movies, no. In a very beautiful manner, it elevates the human sexuality in a proper way. If you go back to history, it was exploited. It was ugly. But in Islam, very nice. Some of the sayings of the Prophet is very nice. I can't imagine a man living in the 7th century can coin these nice words. Present to you something very important about husband-wife relationship in a very nice manner without adding any indecency. And then to have children by God's will. This is the very basis of marriage. To procreate, to have children, to someone to carry your gene. So there is so much of tranquility in having children in the house. If you go back in history, in Russia today, people live easily 100 years. Till today. My grandfather was 101 when he passed away. And he had 16 children, 4 died. So 16 survived. And my father was the last one. And my grandma lived until 85 or 86. And my father's elder sister just passed away last week. She was 82. How did they manage to live so long? You know why? There was a study done in China and in Russia. How did these people survive? How did they survive so long? They found out the reason was because of these women having many children in their family. See, the secret of you living long, don't look for cosmetics, don't look for pills, have children. The old age people, the olden time people used to live very long is because of children in the house. That's the only reason. Why? I tell you why. You see, we all go through stress in life. You go to work, you come back, you're stressed out. As soon as you walk into the house, you see your children playing, they come up to you, daddy, 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 I want to tell you a story, what happened in the school. All this frustration just flies off. It just flies off, finish. You're no more the same guy who was frustrated yelling at your co-workers. So they give you, in Islam, what you call sakina, tranquility. So that is very important. And to keep one's legal and personal identity after marriage. Retain one's own family, name, inheritance, right, property, and things. In Islam, there's one more thing. If a woman gets married to me, she don't have to put my name next to her name. She can still practice her own name with her own father's name. She don't have to put Ashraff. Whatever name is, she don't have to put my name. And my wife doesn't put my name at all. She's got her own family name and her name. In other society, it is a must you have to indicate who your husband is. So if Lancy gets married to John, she has to put Lancy John. In Islam, no. You're free to maintain your family name. And then, in inheritance right and in mahar. Mahar is something that we give to women whatever she demands before marriage. You see, this money that we give is a security she takes from the man. What if tomorrow, after having 2 children in the family, the guy says, I had enough of you, I want to divorce you. Where will she go? Time is gone, she lost her beauty, Once you deliver a baby, the body shape changes. So what Islam says, before you get married, every woman have the right to demand what she wants. If she says, I want a house in the peak, the guy can afford, fine. If the guy cannot afford, then look for somebody else. It's her rights. We can't stop that. And then general duties, to be faithful to the marriage bond. This is very, very important. Today, I am told, even in my own nation, families are hiring private detectives to find out if the man is having an affair. Or before marriage, is this boy a virgin? I had a friend who did that for his sister. He actually sent out a lawyer to get full detail about the guy who's going to marry his sister.